Okay. Um, what I'm going to propose that we do is that in a couple of weeks, in about 3 weeks, all the schools will be finished.
Yeah,
Everyone's schedules are going to change drastically, some even within 2 weeks.
yeah.
So what I want to do is I want to get to a certain point in the Tanya. Um, I think it may be I may be trying too hard, but I want to get over this beginning part
Mm-hmm.
that we've been working on the whole year pretty much.
Yeah.
Um, then during the summer, we'll choose another topic,
Mhm.
and then we'll come back when the school year begins again
Ah, okay.
to uh,
Tanya.
to the Tanya again.
Okay.
Um, this way, it'll be this other topic will be in the long same basic avenue, but that way everybody's traveling and this and
Yeah,
that. They
true.
won't miss
They
the
don't miss it. Yeah, I agree.
right. Yeah, so I think that's what we should do. Only I don't know if we're going to finish as far as I wanted to. Good morning. Good morning. I don't know if we're going to finish as far as I want to before the summer, let's say. Um, so I'm not going
Okay.
to stick as carefully
That's
to the
not.
text as I would normally like,
That's not.
in order that we can go faster.
Okay.
I was
That's
just
good.
saying that I think we'll we'll try and finish up to a certain part before the school year ends.
Okay.
And then when the school year begins again, we'll start with all of the practical. Up until now, it's all been theoretical. Um,
Okay.
and then in the summer, we'll take another topic, let's say. It'll be in the same neighborhood.
Okay.
That
No
way people
Tanya in
won't
the
miss it.
summer.
It'll be something like Tanya, some other Hasidus, but it won't be, or it could be from Tanya, but a different place in the Tanya, something that's standalone. That way, if people miss summer,
Yeah, because people will be traveling
right,
different.
right, they won't miss from the actual text. So that's what I'm thinking. And because of that, we're going to go at a little quicker pace than we've been going, or I'm going to try to. You know me, I get very easily distracted. Um, and we might not cover every word from the Tanya itself. Some of it I might mention outside. Chapter 7 and 8 is really trying to describe to us the difference between um, klipas noga and shalosh klipas atameos. The difference between um, the klipa, the shell that can be elevated, versus the shells that are completely and entirely connected to the world and therefore can never be elevated. And in Hebrew, the words that we used is aser and muter. Aser means tied down, muter means untied. Untied doesn't mean that you're going to take it in the right direction. It just means that you can take it in the right direction. Tied down means that it's tied down and it can never be elevated. Does that make sense? In regular Judaism, let's say, not in Hasidus or in Chabad Hasidus, Asr and Mutter simply mean prohibited and permissible. So that which is prohibited, if you look at the literal word, can be understood in Hasidic philosophy to mean not just that it's prohibited, it means that it's tied down. And therefore, the energy of that item can never be um, used in the service of Hashem. Whereas something which is mutar, which literally means untied, um, can therefore, if one chooses, be used to serve Hashem. So that's really the big topic that we're trying to explain in both chapter 7 and 8. Chapter 7, we started to speak about it a little bit. In addition, he makes mention, and I hope I'm right in saying this because I'm not sure. He mentions it because it's the truth and it's a fact, but he doesn't emphasize what I'm about to say, because I believe, and this is my belief, that he doesn't want this to become the big motivator. And what I'm talking about is that he mentions what is the consequence of being involved in something which is asur, which is tied down, prohibited, and what is the consequence of being involved in something which is mutter, which is permissible, but using it not to serve Hashem, versus the best of all options, which is use something which is mutter to serve Hashem. So he's looking at the other two, which is what happens when you are involved in something which is prohibited or something which is permissible, but you're using it not to serve Hashem. And one of the things we spoke about was sexual relations and the difference between permissible sexual relations that are purely for pleasure versus prohibited sexual relations. And that's what we finished with last week. This week, we're going to speak about foods for the foodies. Okay, and it's on page 127.
We're meeting the foodies.
That's it. That's it. Well, my wife's not here. She's a serious foodie, thank God. I get to get the benefit of that foodieism.
Hold on, wait, just to clarify. It's klipas noga, and the other one was?
Shalosh klipot hatameot. Or in my pronunciation, shalosh klipos hatameos. That's how us Ashkenazim pronounce it. Hatameos. By the way, those 4 klipos, you have the 1, which is klipas noga, and the 3, which are shalosh klipos hatameos, were alluded to, and their source comes from the Haftorah of Shavuos, which is the prophecy of the chariot of Yechezkel, which is actually where most of Kabbalah comes from. It's from this one Haftorah that we read on Shavuos. Okay, so page 127. Now let's talk about food. There's different kinds of food. There's one kind of food which is prohibited food, asur, tied down, prohibited. And then we're going to see that there's something which is permissible food, but eaten for the wrong reason, which we already mentioned in the last chapter a little bit. Now we're really looking at the prohibited food.
But only for food right now.
Yes. Although even in the last chapter, we spoke about food as well. He's kind of mixing it up. You have to really kind of make a chart to get what his points are. But for now, maybe I'll do that actually after class, and I'll send it to you guys. The Oidzais, page 127. When it comes to foods that are prohibited or tied down, that's why they're called Isur, which means prohibited, but which also literally means tied down. What about somebody who ate a prohibited food, not on purpose, not kosher food?
Didn't know.
Okay.
Like they weren't told that something.
Or he was told that it was kosher, and it turns out
it wasn't.
It wasn't. And he ate it l'shem shemayim. He ate it for the right reasons, purely to serve Hashem. So he ate not kosher food to serve Hashem.
Yeah.
Right? Complicated. And his intent is to serve God with the energy that he will receive from the not kosher food that he doesn't know is not kosher, that he's in the middle of eating. And not only that, it was not just his intent. He literally did that. He went from his not kosher steak to the Beit Midrash, and he studied Torah. You get the scenario, right?
So it's different if you eat it and you go to bed than if you go.
Well, he's just trying. It's not necessarily different. That's what we're going to find out now. He's trying to set up the scenario.
Kosher y que quiso servir a Dios y que sea, pero es como que el ejemplo más elevado.
Exacto.
No importa, igual uno puede comer y irse a dormir.
Right.
No, que si comes y después van a.
Pero vamos a ver si hay diferencia. Este es el extremo.
El extremo de lo increíble que comió todo para servir a Dios, fue a la sinagoga y todo, pero era no kosher. Era como que el extremo de.
And not only that, he actually served Hashem with the energy. The very bottom 127. No, the energy will not become part of his Torah study.
What?
The energy that he got from this food cannot become part of his Torah study.
Mhm.
How does that work practically? I can't really tell you. I could only tell you spiritually. And that is that that energy always stays tied down forever. Even if it was by accident, even if he meant to do it for all the right reasons, and even if he used it for all the right reasons, it cannot be elevated. Period.
And like, and then can he like eliminate it from him?
Let's find out. That's what I'm telling you. We get all of the facts, and the facts are not pretty, but I don't think he wants us to be motivated by these facts. I think he's just telling us the facts. Mipnei isura bidei hasitra achra mishalosh kulas etameus. Because of its being tied down in the hands of the sitra achra, the other side, we mentioned that previously briefly, in the shalosh klipas etameus. So since this piece of meat, let's make it the best possible scenario. It was a kosher animal, only in the slaughtering process, there was a little problem with the knife. So it's not kosher.
Mhm.
Vafilu hi isu derabanan. And this even applies if the prohibition was not a Torah prohibition, but was a prohibition added by the rabbis. I don't know an example of that in meat because it's not in the top of my head, but let's just say it's yeah, some prohibition from the rabbis.
But that's very different that if you eat I don't know, piece
Pork.
of pork.
In the end,
At
not
the end,
really.
if it's not kosher, is it this?
It's the same. In terms of that's what we're trying to do again, and that's why I should keep going to the big picture. We're trying to set up the way it's not the Tanya. The Tanya takes it from other much earlier sources, but let's just pretend we're trying to set up the way that Tanya views the world. That's what these 10 chapters are, and really 12, 14 chapters are. Is how do we view the world? And basically, how do we view the world? Everything in this world can either be Kidusha, Tuma, or this big wide center, this big thing in the middle. Um, Kedusha, holiness, is only permissible things used to serve Hashem, period. Not the opposite of Kedusha would be Tuma in this case. It's not necessarily, but that's really the opposite is Cho, but let's not go there. The opposite for our purposes is Tuma, Shalosh Klipos Atameos, and that is never able to become Kedusha, period. And he just gave us the most extreme example. The most extreme example of something that you should imagine might be able to be used in a positive way is somebody who eats not kosher to serve Hashem,
Thinking that it's
thinking that it's kosher, and then not kosher turns out to just be a rabbinic addition. And he says that for our purposes, not in terms of your guilt level, but for our purposes, is the same as eating pork in order to be a glutton. It's not. Don't misunderstand me. Obviously, as a human, it's not the same. In other words, one, you have bad intentions and you're doing everything for the wrong reason, and you know you're doing everything for the wrong reason. We understand there's a difference. We're not suggesting that they're the same. But in terms of the simplistic view that we're creating right here, it is the same. It's in the world of Isser. It's in the world of not being able to be elevated. And it equally cannot be elevated as a um, as a piece of pork. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
these classes for the foodies.
So far, because now we're gonna have for the people who spend time on social media too. So we're gonna have both. Yeah. Sort of. Yeah, that's not. It's a not nice way of me putting it. But so that's the point. The point is that if we can generally classify everything in the world into godly, I'm going to use a word which is not correct, but I'll use it anyhow, anti-godly, and the stuff that's in the middle, the extreme of anti-godly is the scenario that we just put out. In other words, the extreme positive. But in theory, it's really ultimately the same in terms of its classification as the far extreme to the opposite side, which would be, well, far extreme not, but unextreme, which would be eating pork on purpose in order to enjoy the meal. Does that make sense to you? It still fits in the same category. The category is you cannot elevate it.
So you can really never enjoy a food just because.
No. So that's the middle.
No. My
Right.
question is everything that you do needs to be done to serve God.
Yes.
You cannot just do
I
something.
didn't say that, but I agree with the first one. Maybe, and this is where me and Hindi have our debate, and she's probably right and I'm probably wrong. So I'll present her side today, is that there are certain pleasures which are meant to be pleasurable and are meant that the pleasure itself is part of the service of Hashem.
For example, eating on Shabbat.
For example, eating delicious food on Shabbos. Exactly. That was yes.
No lo estoy diciendo
Right.
por lo que
That's correct.
está diciendo.
Another example, and so another example, two examples. One is in perhaps in your business, maybe, which is to make beautiful tables for the purpose of serving Hashem for Shabbat. Perhaps I argue with all this, by the way, but I don't know if I'm right. So I'm going to take Hindi side for now.
Okay, I understand. But for example, if you want to eat a piece of chocolate, of course, you don't need it to serve Hashem, the chocolate.
Who says?
Huh?
Who says?
No, it's like you need like good food, not chocolate, or yes.
Maybe for the braha.
No, so that's one thing that's
No,
one
but-
place I definitely will go. All the bracha does is make it permissible. Everybody likes to say that as soon as you make a bracha, you've elevated it. No, it's not true.
But simple to a shiva. You eat just to say the braha.
That could
for
be.
the soul
That
of
could
the
be.
person,
That could
not
be
necessarily because you want it.
because you want it. That could be. That would be an example
Okay,
for
so
sure.
a piece of chocolate, you eat it for pleasure. I mean, maybe you're going to serve Hashem because like you're eating here in the shiur a piece of chocolate, but I mean you don't really
It's a good
need
question. It's a good question. And in the Hasidic world, that I have to be a little honest because I don't like being honest normally. So today I'll be a drop honest. A lot of what we're studying, first of all, we haven't given any advice yet. We're just trying to set up the
Scenario.
scenarios, the facts. So that's important to know because we haven't. You're asking for advice, like how do I put this in my life? Do I eat chocolate? Do I not eat chocolate? And we haven't really answered that question yet. All we've done is we've described where does that fit in this scheme. And if you're literally eating it just to enjoy the chocolate, then it fits in the middle section, which is permissible, but at the bottom of the middle section, because you've taken what's permissible and you've made it purely
pleasure.
pleasurable or egotistical, let's say, about you. In theory, you could eat food that's purely to serve Hashem, but maybe there's even a middle scenario in that world. You understand what I'm saying? Well, now, where was I going to be honest? I was going to be honest in the following way, and that's why I'm going to bring it to your conversation as well, your question as well. Earlier generations of Hasidim practiced the Tanya much better than current generations do. Okay. What do I mean by that? I mean that this is where they spent their mind, their energy, their life was in refining themselves as people using the lessons of the Tanya. Now, I'm not saying that we don't do that anymore. That's not true.
There was less distraction.
There's a lot less distraction. There's a lot less plenty. Our lives were much simpler in certain ways, much more complicated in other ways, by the way. In other words, people were dying left and right. A man or a woman could lose their husband at 30, and it was not a major tragedy. It was just part of life. You know what I'm saying? Today, it's a major tragedy, which it is. But they really there were Hasidim who were really spending, like if you went to a Lubavitch yeshiva, if you went to the yeshiva in Lubavitch, this would be a very big part of what what you were being trained in your and I don't mean today we're still trained in the words, but we're much less trained in the action. That's the honest truth. There's another element of the Tanya that I think maybe we're better trained in than the earlier generations. But why am I bringing this up to you? Is you're asking about something that's very, very delicate. You're eating a kosher food. Um, you're eating it apparently for pleasure. Why? Because it's something that's not necessary for your health. You see what I'm saying? So in an earlier generation of Hasidim, they would have made a very big deal out of this question. Today's generation, they chow down on the best meats and the best chocolates. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that that's the way it is today. I would say, I would say that it is possible to eat even a delicacy to serve Hashem, even a delicacy. I'm not saying that you necessarily will. Does that make sense to you?
Mhm.
So in an earlier generation, a person who ate ice cream would have been like, "What's the matter with you?"
Yeah.
Just because you're eating ice cream. You know what I'm saying? They would have looked at you and said, "What's your problem? You don't have better things to do with your life." You know what I'm saying? That's the way it would have been in the Hasidic world in an earlier generation. Today, now they did not live
Why? Because
because it's purely for pleasure. There's nothing.
if it's in Shavuot.
Okay. Yes, that's a good point. But in today's generation, everybody eats ice cream. It's not even like a question. I'm not saying that that's okay or not okay. It just is the reality. But I would still say that even ice cream, even in the older generation, could have been used to serve Hashem. Why? We had an example of it in the Tanya of the rabbi who used to eat fat meat, not just meat. In other words, a good steak and spiced aged wine. I guess that's supposed to be good. I don't know. In order to broaden his mind so that when he would go to study, he was studying, in the right frame of mind. Now, to really do that, that's a very high level because most of us we eat good meat because we like good meat, beginning and of conversation. But in theory, even the chocolate, I'm saying even in this old-fashioned version,
Yeah.
and I would say even in today's version, even the chocolate could be used to serve Hashem. Everybody knows that women love chocolate. Okay, not all women, but 99%. It puts them in a good mood, I guess. And that good mood will then let you go through the day in a positive place. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that's wrong. But I do think that if it's purely for the sake of eating the chocolate, it's certainly fitting into the lower end of the middle category
So,
of the permissible,
okay.
which is what we spoke about last week.
Yeah.
Okay. But now we're talking about the upper end of the prohibited. And the upper end of the prohibited, we say, cannot be elevated. Even if you do it for all the right reasons, you do it for all you didn't even know and you still don't know. It's not that you found out later. That energy will never be elevated.
Está hablando el ejemplo de que alguien comió una comida no kosher. Por ejemplo, se comió un steak que no estuvo cortado bien por el rabino y se comió una carne no kosher pensando que va a servir a Shem, pero no era kosher, sin saberlo. Y después fue y estudió Torah y todo. Esa energía nunca va a
Poder
ser
elevar.
elevada. Sin él ni siquiera saberlo. O sea, como que es una energía que no...
Es
No la
parte
puede
es parte
ser.
tuya, pero no la puedes elevar. O sea, va a ser siempre parte tuya, pero no se puede elevar. Porque era, aunque no supiéramos.
And therefore, where I'm going to skip a little bit from inside because I say that I want to try and pick up the pace a little bit, so we could finish the basics by the end of the school year, hopefully. Basically, therefore, the desire for prohibited things. So now we're going to come back to. We just set up a scenario to show you the edges.
Yeah.
Now we're going to come back to the big picture. The desire for prohibited things is considered a desire that is entirely negative. So if you actually look at, like I do sometimes, there's very few non-kosher foods that I'm actually interested in. But there's one I'm interested in. I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's I think prosciutto. It looks really good. What can I tell you? When I look at it, that looks like something I would like to eat. Okay. That desire is pure negativity inside of it. Pure negativity. There's nothing positive about it.
Even thinking about it without
Even thinking about it. The desire for it comes from a negative space in my soul.
But it's negative, but at the same time, you don't surrendering to that desire doesn't give you a lot of
Pluses.
positivity.
Sure. But I should know what he's going to show us now is he's going to recognize the difference between two different kinds of desire. One is desire for not kosher, and not kosher means anything that's prohibited. I'm just using a not kosher food as an example. Non-Jewish women, okay, or other people's wives, okay, for example. All of these desires are considered, or husbands. I mean, I'm doing it from my side. um, all of those desires are absolutely from the negative space. Doesn't make it not normal, but it's from negative. Then you have desire from a neutral space. It's still considered, because it's purely about your desire, it's still considered negative, but it's not negative like the other desire. It's negative in a way that even if you gave into that desire, it can, even post facto, become elevated. So, for example, let's go with a simple one: is your chocolate. Okay, you see the chocolate, it looks delicious, your mouth is watering, just a drop, not a lot, just a drop. That's essentially negative because it's purely egotistical. It's purely about me. It's very animal. It's very animal. But it's not as negative as looking for the non-kosher chocolate, because the non-kosher chocolate can never be elevated. Therefore, the desire for it, the attraction to it, is entirely negative. Whereas this, even post facto, you ate it for the wrong reasons. You ate it because it looks really delicious, and wow, that was really yummy, and move on. It can always be elevated, even post facto. Now, the problem is, and I'm skipping the text, I'm just giving you the idea. The problem is that if you have eaten it for the wrong reasons, even though ultimately you can elevate the energy or the whatever it is that you ingested, if it was a food, there's other ways to connect to that pleasure. Even though eventually you can elevate it, but it leaves a mark. The fact that you um, indulged purely for the sake of indulgence leaves a mark both on your soul and on your body. And again, this is not the point of it, but it's just important to know. And he gives us the facts. Therefore, we have decomposition of the holy Jewish body in a grave. The reason your body decomposes is cleansing your body of all of its interaction or indulgence in the physical world, even if it wasn't non-kosher. It was just for the purpose of indulgence, and that is a cleansing. Others would call it a punishment, and Hasidus we call it a cleansing.
And the soul.
So what happens to the soul? Does he mention? No, he doesn't mention. But I do believe that the body itself, the soul, does feel. I don't know what that means physically. It's not a physical. The decomposition. In other words, that's part of the soul's cleansing as well. Yeah. There are exceptions. Like it says that Rabbeinu HaKadosh, the author of the Mishnah, even though he is extraordinarily wealthy, and even though he participated very heavily in the physical Thank you. In the physical world, nonetheless, he never enjoyed his participation in the physical world. It was never about indulgence. Rabbeinu HaKadosh, the author of the Mishnah, he was a very, very wealthy man, and it speaks about the delicacies he had on his table. But that was really, even though we wouldn't have seen it this way necessarily, for him, it was purely for the purpose of serving Hashem, and therefore his body never decomposed. We say that about many tzaddikim, that there are tzaddikim whose bodies don't decompose. I don't know about him, how we know it. I guess it must be written in the Talmud or in the Zohar or something. I don't know. Other tzaddikim, it's been witnessed.
Yeah, my
Heard that.
Yes, yes. Okay, that I don't know. Rabbeinu HaKadosh. But other tzaddikim, it's been witnessed. In other words, more contemporary tzaddikim, that they, for various reasons, they had to be, their bodies had to be moved to a new place, and when they uncovered them, they were perfectly intact. I don't know. That's what they say.
That means they didn't have marks too.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Exactly right.
like you would think that it would just be huesos.
Mm-hmm.
No, but she's saying that we were saying that the reason that your body goes through
that it rusts.
decomposition is because of their involvement in being a foodie. But I gave your perspective, right? Ladies, give me some credit. Okay. Not only that, I even took your side. Yes, but I wouldn't do it in front of you, so don't worry about it. I just don't want you to have the pleasure that would then need etc. Okay, anyhow. Now we're going to go into another topic in the same classification. We're trying to teach you how to classify things, right? Again, this is not suggestions for how to live your life yet, necessarily. These are just ways to look at the world. We're going to speak about speech. Up until now, we spoke about relations. We spoke about food. Now we're going to speak about speech. And he says the following. And again, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, only because I want to make sure that we finish the chapter today. And next week, we're going to get into the sum of this whole idea. And then we're going to turn it into Tzaddik, Beinani in Russia. That'll be afterwards. Okay. What about permissible speech? So we said earlier in the very beginning, we spoke about the idea that speech is the clothing of the soul. There's three kinds of clothing of the soul: thought, speech, and action. And we said, what is speech of the nefesh halakis, of the godly soul? It's only Torah speech. Speech that's a mitzvah, prayer, saying nice things to other people, a speech that's being used for a mitzvah. Perhaps you're building a sukkah and you're talking about you need to do this and this, or you're building a mikvah and you have the meeting about the mikvah. That all speech is godly speech. That's all from your godly soul. Then you have prohibited speech, which we're about to speak about in a moment. But now we're going to speak about, again, the middle, which
Having like fundraisers and
it depends what you're doing in the fundraiser. When you're just chatting because you're chit-chatting, maybe not. Maybe that's in the middle. If you're literally talking words about the tzedakah, of course it's holy speech. That's not middle speech.
I would think that like holy speech is reading words of Torah.
That's the holy, yes, but even words of tzedakah are holy speech, which tzedakah could mean the words about the tzedakah, or the words themselves could be tzedakah. When you see somebody who's down and you say, have a great day, or that's tzedakah. The words themselves become tzedakah. But now let's speak about idle words that are said in a permissible way. For example, somebody who does not know how to study Torah, because if you know how to study Torah and you're wasting your time by having idle speech, that is no longer in the world of permissible. That's already in the world of prohibited. In other words, somebody who's meant to be studying Torah and is simply using his mouth for other things, that's already in the world of prohibited. Big topic. Let's not get caught up on that yet. But let's say a regular person who's talking about Donald Trump, positive, negative. I'm not going in any direction here. You're just talking. You're talking stuff. That's also since you used your words for something other than the service of Hashem, there's also a negativity that's included in that.
But if you're saying a fact, let's say some news, this happened. You're just saying something that happened.
And let's compare it to food.
Okay.
What would that can be compared to in food in your mind?
Holy.
Right, right. Which means that you've taken the energy and you've allowed it to be used for what the Tanya considers to be negative, not super negative, which is prohibited, but negative meaning not the service of Hashem. So is it the worst thing in the world? It's not like prohibited speech, which we're about to learn about, but it's still using your human faculty in a animalistic sense, meaning not like animals because animals don't speak, but the way human animals speak, which is just saying stuff. You see what I'm saying?
I would think it's a hollow, no sé cómo se dice, vacío. It's a
Sí.
conversation that
Yeah,
has
yeah.
no point. Like
Right.
when people talk
That's a
about the
problem.
weather or whatever. It's
Yeah, it could be a problem. It could be a problem.
but it's not good or not bad. It's just.
But we ultimately, okay, let me make it easy to because you just hit the perfect point. Everything is either good or bad, period. Only some things are in the world where you choose whether it's going to be good or bad. In other words, let's say the food example, and then we're going to come back to the speech one. A steak, if you eat it for the wrong reason, which we're saying, which is the normal reason, okay, which is because it's delicious, you chose to take something which could have been good or bad and use it for what we're calling bad. Not for bad in the sense that you're killing babies, you know what I'm saying, but for bad in the sense that it's not for the service of Hashem. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing with speech. It's the most spectacular faculty that human beings have been given. It's what makes us different from all the rest of the animals and all the rest of existence, is our ability to speak. And you took it, and instead of using it for what you're supposed to use it for, you used it for stupidities. So we look at that as perfectly normal, and I get that. I'm just like you. I'm not. As I'm telling you, I'm no better. I'm reading the facts. That doesn't mean that that's the way I'm living my life necessarily. I try to a little bit, but at least we should be aware of it. So in a second, the answer is yes, it's bad. Why? Not because it's evil. Evil we're going to come up to in a moment. Prohibited speech.
I feel like my body's gonna be decomposed completely.
Well, we didn't say yet. No, this is worse. This is worse, by the way. This is worse because now we're going to speak about a certain kind of hell.
Nice.
Yes, that the soul gets the language that we use is not meant to be taken literal, but I'll put it literal. Gets put in a slingshot.
What is slingshot?
Yes, and gets thrown from one side of the earth to the other side of the earth. But it's not meant to be literal. But it is literal in the sense that it's exactly what you described. It's the cleansing for nothingness. You've invested in nothingness. You know, I'll give, and I know you want to say something, but I'll just give an example. Just came to my mind. Let's look at that. Okay, money. You have $500,000. They gave you before you started life $500,000. Go invest it. Okay, you could take that $500,000 and you can invest it in something that's going to pay dividends. That would be very cool. You could take the $500,000 and you can use it for something which is absolutely terrible. That's the worst side of the picture. But you could also take it and just squander it. Put it into something that's completely meaningless. That's also a tragedy. You see what I'm saying? So your ability to speak is a beautiful thing of value, and you took it and you just squandered it. Not you, me,
No, no.
all of us. We're all part of this picture. You know what I'm saying? We are.
Like, of course, people that work like in a synagogue and like rabbis and Hindis. There's not many Hindis, but Hindis.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, of course you're
That's
using
cool
your
too.
time and energy every day, every time to, but like people like normal, like us, that we don't work like in a synagogue, are using speech and everything to work. Also, of course, giving tzedakah for what we work them,
It's a very good question. It's a very good question. Um, two things. So first of all, not Hindi, but I could speak about me. Um, we could spend a lot of time working. That's really just wasting time too. So just because you're doing it, and maybe it's even worse because we're taking.
But what about if your work is to create mitzvahs and to bring other people
So
to
what I'm going to suggest is even better than that, which is that all work can be a mitzvah. All work. I mean, as long as it's not prohibited work. Meaning to say, either you're cheating, which makes it prohibited, or you're involved in a profession that is prohibited, or a business that's prohibited. But putting that to the side, all work can be the service of Hashem. All work, literally all work. And in the work world, especially, I think it's easier to use it for the service of Hashem than in your leisure world. Because if it's actually part of your work, um, not necessarily all the language we use in our work is used for our work. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if it's actually part of your work, even if part of that is having conversations with people you need to have conversations with, and your work is done for the right reason, all of that becomes elevated, without a doubt.
That's one of the beautiful things about tzedakah. Why tzedakah is so important.
I'll slow down
Oh.
because I know where you're going to go. Go ahead, say it, and then I'm going to argue with you.
Because that tzedakah has this incredible element that all we worked for whatever and
Yeah.
all the effort that we did to get that money.
That's
But
correct.
then if we take some of that money and give it to tzedakah, so all the effort that we just did, all the weeks of work beforehand are now elevated because they went for a mitzvah. So
Right, I agree with that. So I'm not going to argue with you. Sorry.
Mhm.
But I thought you were going to go somewhere else, which proves again that most people think that other people, they know where the other person's going and they have no clue. I thought you were going to speak about the fact that by giving tzedakah, you've elevated um, not just your work, but all of those days of work. And that's not necessarily true because you can elevate the parts that you didn't misuse, but not the parts that you misused. The parts that you misuse, you have to do something in it. The tzedakah could be helpful for it, but you need to do a specific teshuva for those parts.
For the hours that you didn't like use very well.
Right.
For the
Or
time.
for the speech. You know what I'm saying? You could, let's say an example. You work with your daughters, and I'm not pointing a finger, I'm just using an example. And while you're working, you spend a significant percentage just talking about random stuff. That fits in the category of what we're describing right now,
Yeah,
which is it's random. That's not really part of your work.
of course.
Now, if you were doing that with a client, that could be perhaps considered part of your work because that's part of
Yeah.
the game that's
Socializing,
necessary to make the work happen. But when you're doing it just randomly, or even if you're doing it with your client, not for the sake of your work, now it's dropped the level. You see what I'm saying? All we're doing is classifying. Again, don't feel guilty yet. We're just classifying, saying results. The guilt we'll deal with later. Does that make sense? Go ahead. I'm sorry. You've been wanting to say something for a long time, and I keep not letting you talk. I don't blame you. All of us. Me too.
Then because you're gonna give tzedakah, suddenly
I didn't say only because you're giving tzedakah. She's just saying that tzedakah helps elevate your work.
say kosher slaughter.
No importa.
Matter. It does matter because then I could be using my time for something that is much more holy.
No, disagree.
And
Your
also,
work is holy. Hashem commands you for 6 days a week you shall work. That is a mitzvah in the Torah. And that includes being a plumber. It includes being a diamond merchant. It includes being a baker, and it includes being a rabbi.
the work of someone who's a slaughter,
Citizen.
his work is, bless you,
Mhm.
his work is to serve Hashem. But someone who is,
I disagree.
Well, actually, the Shabbat the book of trust is writes that like everybody's is created like the way that they are, and if they're not doing the work that's suitable for them, then they're like disagreeing with Hashem, how Hashem created them. So they have to do what they're meant
yeah,
to do.
you get
They could be focused on doing mikvahs all day, or
No, but I
not.
understand.
Could you make enough money just doing mikvahs? Give it a shot.
No, you need a plumber, you need someone
Exactly.
who design houses, you need someone who
Why
sell
do
diamonds.
you design houses? I mean,
You need it.
because
No, you need it because
yes,
God gave you the
Talent.
ability,
Exactly.
how do you call it?
Talent.
The talent. No, but there's a word for it. No.
In Hebrew, English, French,
Sí,
Spanish.
midot,
Bueno.
the midot. And you're using it for the right reasons.
but
my
then when you compare it to everything that we've been speaking, God give you the desire of eating chocolate.
Yes.
God give you the desire.
Oh, good question. Okay, I get your question.
God, my desire.
My God,
Desires is
I had no doubt.
No, pero
My desire to do beautiful things. I mean, I think we're again in this same spectrum where what you've been given is.
No,
It could be. No, I think it could be. No, it could be. It could be. There's no question about it.
Meaning
And
like she loves him doing
right.
plumbing.
Right.
desire is different than talent. Like you're using the talents that God gave you to do something that is a mitzvah because God tells you to work 6 days a week. So you're using that talent to do the mitzvah.
But I'm also using my desire because I have talents in many things. I could be doing Excel spreadsheets that I'm amazing at. I just hate it. I'm actually a computer scientist. I dropped off because I hated it, but it was great. Like, I'm actually doing my desire.
But okay, so it's a good question, and I would say that when it's a particular, I don't know. This is me making stuff up. Let me just start with that. Okay, it's a particular scenario is the work element of our life versus the pure pleasure element of our life.
But it's comparable.
I'm not debating it.
Time and your impulses, desire, etc., that it can be through work, through speech.
That's correct.
Action.
I agree, and I'm saying even when it comes to work, you can be motivated by you could be motivated by wrong reasons. You could be motivated by middle reasons, which if you the middle, what we would call normal middle, he's calling negative. And you could still be doing all of that and actually be doing it for the positive. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I'm trying to introduce here. In other words, you could be. I'm sorry, just 1 second. You could, if you don't mind, if you can be doing what you're built to do. And part of the way you know what you're built to do is by what you enjoy doing. And you can be doing that not purely for the sake of just doing what you enjoy doing, but for the sake of serving Hashem. Just like no, even because this is a mitzvah in the Torah to work, and I'm doing this because I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. Now, I will say that it's likely, not necessarily so, but it's likely that you will maybe spend a little fewer hours if you're doing it for the right reason. Not always, but a lot of times, and that perhaps during some of your breaks, you might be doing something better if your whole mind is focused on serving Hashem. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that that's not necessarily so, because some people have to work 14 hours a day. It's just that's the reality of their profession, the reality of their particular circumstance. They must work 14 hours a day. That's not up for discussion. Okay. But many of us can work a lot less than we work. It's just a fact. And still make the same
result.
same result.
And
But we
and use the other time, extra time to do other things.
right. So and among those other things is not just learning Torah, but it may be spending time with our family. Now you could even say spending time with our family fits in this problem. Why am I spending time with my family? Just because I love my kids and my family. Yes, I agree. I'm not debating you. I'm not debating you. You're what you're saying is correct. But I think that we
Chassidus
could
does talk about it actually a lot.
spending time with your family.
No, like that, like great tzaddikim. I know there's a story of a great tzaddik that he saw his son. It was a Chabad Rebbe. He saw his son. He felt such love for his son at that moment, and he held himself back from kissing him, and instead he gave over Chassidut for him.
And he called it a Hasidic kiss.
The Hasidic, like,
No, no entendí.
o sea, a great tzaddik
Ajá.
that
I think it was a pretty clever.
his love for
His son.
his son, even that he wanted to use for, even
No.
that he wanted it to be
Directed.
only for Hashem,
His
like
son was
directed.
sleeping in the room. It was
Right.
very poor at the time, so they had like one room and or maybe two rooms or something. But they were learning, and he saw his kid sleeping, and he saw like how angelic he looked, so he wanted to kiss him, but instead he instead of kissing him, he made a Hasidic discourse and named it like the Hasidic kiss or something.
That's what it's tight. It's not named that, but it was he referred to it as that. It could be.
Exactly.
It could
That
be.
was what
It could be. It could be. We're not. I'm not. Again, that's what we said. That's what we said. 99% of all of our life is a choice. 1% is purely God. I'm making up numbers. 5% is purely God. 5% is 100% not a choice. You're not allowed to do it. The 90, now we put it to 90% because we did 5 and 5. I see you are a computer scientist. That 90% in the middle is complicated. And there's no other word for it.
I know that's a great tzaddik, but I agree to disagree in the matter that like also like kissing your son and your daughter, it's a mitzvah because you're giving her and you're giving your family the love that they need
Yes.
to be.
And it's
to be
especially
very
true for
secure,
mothers, even more than
to
fathers.
be very-
Yes.
to be-
No doubt.
to be like more secure.
100%.
But the question could be, and here's where it becomes delicate. But again, we haven't made any suggestions yet. We're just trying to set up the scenario. The question could be, so why am I doing this? Am I doing this because Hashem gave me a job, which is to raise my children in the most loving home that I can raise them? Or am I doing this because my nature, I'm a human animal, and human animals love their kids?
Oh, I understand.
You see what I'm
The
saying?
intention counts
Yeah,
a lot,
absolutely.
of course.
Absolutely. It's the intention, and that's what I'm saying when it comes back to the work. There's no doubt that I may be working purely because I love to work and I need to do this stuff, and this just makes my life full. Okay, that's very personal, egotistical. Are we saying it's evil, like again, killing babies? No, we're not saying that. But in this perspective,
Yeah.
it's very human, aka very animal. It's the human animal, but it's an animal.
Because 90% of what
Yes.
you're getting is to buy you new car.
Right? Right. Now, does that make it evil? Not 100%, but it sort of does. That's in the lower end of that. Exactly.
Form a desire, like the animal soul,
Even a good one.
to be serving
Directed towards
Hashem.
Hashem.
Like if something that you want to do,
Right.
at the end it's a
Find the
mitzvah.
good.
So
find the good ones.
in Hasidus we have right. In Hasidus we have two
Man,
The rabbi has to bless it.
In Hasidus, we have two Aramaic words that, especially, like I said, in the older Hasidim, was much used. Today, it's a little less used. And those are iskafia and ishapcha. Iskafia means to push it away. Ishapcha means to turn it over. And basically, um, anything which is prohibited automatically requires iskafia, pushing it away. Once upon a time in the Hasidic world, they would practice iskafia for the things that were permissible. So you have this sudden desire for a chocolate, don't touch it. You can eat it later, in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, not when you're thinking about it. No. I'm saying if you're still holding the desire, forget it. Oh, you mean hold back on it?
Yeah,
No,
hold back.
yes. I thought you meant that you're still thinking about it for the 20 minutes. That would be even more problematic. If you're thinking about it for 20 minutes, that means you spend 20 minutes thinking about chocolate. That's even worse. But they would train themselves. If I have a desire for something, push it away. Maybe in a later date, I can interact with it differently. Okay. When I'm not so attracted to it. Again, am I saying that that's the way that it's meant to be practiced today? It must be so, but it's not commonly practiced this way. But that is really the message. The message really is that we don't do things because we're human animals. We do things because we're servants of Hashem. That's ultimately the message here. Let's just finish off the chapter very quickly.
But I think that is a very important.
But it's
point that you said.
9:17 and people have to leave, and I have
But I
to
just think
finish the
there's a very
chapter.
important part that you said, which is that the first step of the game is, am I doing what Hashem lets? That's the first.
Question one.
That's right.
And if it's not, then I definitely have to. There's no way to interact with it positively. In other words, if it's something that's against the Torah, there's no way to interact with it positively, period. Then, if it's something that is permissible, now I make decisions. Why am I interacting with it? If I'm interacting with it purely in a human way, then at least in the way it always was practiced, is you say no, push it away.
What if you do something that is in the top 5%, very holy, for the wrong reasons?
It can be a
Like
big
what?
problem.
Like give tzedakah
No,
for
yeah,
clothes?
yes,
Yeah,
or
or
learn Torah to
studying,
become a big rabbi or something.
thinking.
That's looked at. Yeah, no,
She will engage just to prove you wrong.
that's me. No, you're talking about me. That's me.
Judaism. Wow. So if that time that you're speaking, is it good or is actually horrible?
Yeah, that could be it is possible to take something that is theoretically holy and to put it into the negative space.
Is it?
Yes, it is possible. Um, so he says, when it comes to speech, there's two levels. One is what we just spoke about, which is permissible speech, but for other wrong, you speak about sports. There's nothing wrong. You know what I'm saying? But what do you have to talk about it for? Now, again, it depends. If you're meant to be studying at that time, which for some people is all times, for other people is sometimes, then it's no longer permissible speech. It's now prohibited speech. So even though you're not speaking Lashon Hara, which is definitely prohibited speech, or saying not nice things to other people, which is definitely prohibited speech, but you're speaking at a time that you're meant to be studying Torah, something which is permissible, that becomes prohibited. And that has a whole nother problem. And that is that you need actual what does he say? That you go to actual Gehenna for. That's actual hell. So the three levels we've mentioned of punishment, but it's really cleansing, is the grave. That was the lightest level. That's for indulging in. Yeah, but that's all of us. I mean, not all of me, my crew. You guys are tzaddikim, but the grave is the lightest level of cleansing. The second is being shot back and forth in the slingshot thing, and the third is actual Gehenna, is actual hell. And that is for things that are prohibited, including prohibited speech. And then he says even worse.
Speech, you said?
Is the permissible speech, he said, for not the right reason, is the slingshot.
So I know, but it's still considered prohibited.
Yes.
So if you're talking sports in a Torah class, then you go to hell, like
Yeah.
to the extreme.
Yeah.
How about people talking during davening?
I'm going to hell.
It's the song from the relax though, because I told you this is all just the facts, man. Soon we're gonna get to the. I know. That I see. There's less people each class. Yeah, that's it. But no, that's actually not true. No, I have to finish because everyone has to go, and we just want to finish the chapter. And finally, he says it could be, and here's this is even more controversial. What about using your mind for things that are not? So if you're using your mind for something that's actually prohibited, that's really bad. But what about using your mind for things that are just permissible? It's also problematic. Because then what are you doing? You're taking your highest faculty. Speech is a very something amazing that takes us out of being animals. But your mind is even more so. You took the most intimate part of your life, of your existence, and you're using it for something which is meaningless. Now, we wouldn't call it meaningless. In the real world, you'd say, wow, what a great poet, author, scientist. He's achieved everything that humanity is able to achieve. And he's looking at it and saying, no, you just took your most important faculty and you're using it for things that are meaningless, unless you're using it again to make a living. So, for example, if you choose to become a doctor, you need to study medicine. And therefore, you need to use your mind for something which is not studying Torah. It's not prohibited, but it's not studying Torah, but you're using it for a positive reason.
So hobbies are complicated.
Might be.
But you need you need for health.
Might be complicated.
I'm thinking a person needs hobbies for their health.
In that sense, it could be positive. And not only that, you can use your hobbies for a purely positive thing as well. But it could be, yeah. Again, the classification that we've created is there's entirely negative, entirely positive, 90%. Now, the 90%, most of the way that most people interact with it is going to be brought down to the negative. But in theory, all of that 90% can be used for the positive. And we spoke a little bit about the effect on the body and on the soul, and therefore what the cleansing process is. That's really chapter 7 and chapter 8. Chapter 9, we're finally going to get into the reason we've been studying all this. Not the suggestions yet. That's going to be after the summer. But we're going to get to what this is all building up to. Okay, very good. You're very welcome. I want Hindi to show you a very cool Tanya. I just inherited a bunch of books, which is all the books up on top here and these books here, from a tremendous Hasidic scholar. He's one of the great scholars of our generation in Hasidus, Reb Aaron Chitrick. And this Tanya was printed in 1976 in Casablanca, Morocco.
Oh.
And it's translated into Judeo-Arabic.
Wow.
So if you read here, this is Arabic written in Hebrew characters. I'm going to run
Like
because
phonetics.
yeah,
Phonetics
in Arabic, yes.
Wow. Oh, that is
And this is complete, like
No,
this.
that's one. The Tanya is really third book.
Can I read that?
Yeah, very good.
Bye.
bye.